passé sa vie à rechercher les poux anciens et que Philippe a passé une partie de la sienne et moi aussi à chercher les poux modernes dans les 4 coins du monde. Mais vous voyez qu'il y a 2 choses dont on a fait ça géographiquement. Moi, je suis allé chercher des poux un peu partout dans le monde, et lui, il a fait ça historiquement, c'est-à-dire qu'il est allé chercher les poux les plus anciens. Voilà, donc on est très heureux qu'il vienne nous faire partager son expérience à la fois de paléo-pouiste.
Merci pour l'invitation. Bonjour. I understand that I have to give my presentation in English. And I would like to start with an anecdote from the time of Heraclitus, who talks about soldiers coming back to Athens after being in a war. And they were saying that all what they caught, they left there, and whatever they couldn't caught, they bring with them. And now that you heard everything about what is my background, you know what he was talking about. That it was the lice which they couldn't cut. Anyway, as we know it, we have 3 lice, and we are going to talk about all of them. The one species, the Pediculus humanus, which is with 2 subspecies, Capitis and Humanus humanus, the body louse, and we will talk also about the 3rd louse, the pubic louse. Anyway, just a few general ideas about the lice, which most of you know. They are, of course, insects. They are permanent ectoparasites. They are all blood-feeding in all active developmental stages, and they are specific to humans. And just a few words about the biology of the head louse. As you see, the louse hatch about 6 to 9 days after oviposition. There are 3 nymphal stages, 1 to 3, and it takes about 4 to 5 days between the stages to develop to the next stage. And from the 3rd nymph it comes out, the male and female, which live approximately 3 to 4 weeks. And during this time, the female lays something between 50 to 150 eggs. Just a little bit the biology, because afterwards I will talk about males, females, etc. And still some words about the eggs, which we are going to talk a little bit more about it. And as you know, the female lays the eggs, and before the egg comes completely out from her body, she uses a duck and she glues with a special glue the egg on the human hair, which you see it here. And on the top of the egg there are the operculum, which a new louse opens and then leaves the eggshell. Once the louse leave the egg, so we have what we call meat, in opposite to egg, which usually there is an embryo inside. So we are going to differentiate between eggs and nits. Just historically, evolutionary, we will start with that. As you see, there is a divergence time of approximately 11.5 million years for splitting between Thyrus and Pediculus, between the human lice, and approximately 5 to 6 million years for the split between the Pediculus sheffi, which is the only other Pediculus louse, which is in the chimpanzees. And between the two, there is a divergence time of approximately 5.6. They diverge between them during this period. Okay, as we also ancestor of this common ancestor of this pediculus was apparently diverged, was living 6 million years ago. And however, the Thyllus, the ancestor of Thyllus does, we have two species there. The one is from gorilla, the Thyllus gorilla, and the other one is the human one, the Thyllus pubis. And they shared a common ancestor 3 to 4 million ago. But the two animals, if we want to say the gorillas and the humans, they diverged 7 million years ago, which means that apparently most probably the gorilla, Thyllus gorilla, come to humans approximately 3 million years ago after they diverged between there was a divergence between the two species. And just if we come to the human evolution, in order to see what are how the head louse diverge from the body louse diverge from the head louse, it was also population expansion, human lice coincide with out of Africa expansion of humans, which is approximately 100,000 years ago, which means that when during this period when humans started leaving Africa and going more to the north, and they had to wear warm clothes, so apparently in this period also the human body louse left the head area and start going and doing this using this molecular clock analysis between head and body louse, they found that approximately, as we said, 100,000 years ago, together with the expansion of the out of Africa of humans, it was also this divergence between head louse and body louse. I don't know who teach to whom to delouse, you know, but it is known that if you look to these monkeys that they delouse themselves, usually it's a social phenomenon. If you look afterwards, you examine the intestine of these animals, you don't find any lice. So they try to delouse, or they do as if they delouse each other, but usually they don't find, even if they try to eat it, whatever they collect. But it is something which also humans are doing, eating the lice which they remove from the head. But it is more social phenomenon, and we know that not everybody can delouse any other ape. If we go a little bit to the head louse now, I am showing you here one of the first drawings, if not the first drawing, of head louse, which is from Robert Hooke himself in 1664, and which is quite accurate the way he drew the louse using his first microscopes. Lice are mentioned in the Bible as the third plague visited on the Egyptians when Pharaoh denied the request of Moses to let the Israelites go. And yeah, you are reading it. If we go now to the archaeology, the first lice on mummies was found most probably by Eving in 1924, when he examined several Egyptian mummies and he found the first lice and eggs. And the same was done also lately in China, and in Lulan mummies they found also lice. And there are a lot of publications, I didn't put all of them, but there are quite a lot of publications about South American mummies, which they found being infested with lice. We will immediately see afterwards the third about the these camarones, and we will talk about these two publications. But there was also an Egyptian text from the 16th century BC, known as the Papyrus Ebers, which described a remedy for lice prepared from date flour. If we go to lice which were found on human remains, not necessarily archaeological remains, the oldest lice are found by Arroyo and carbon dated to 10,000 years old. In Brazil, we found something which was in Nahal Hemar caves in Dead Sea, which were about 9,000 years old. We missed the record by 1,000 years, but that is what we found. And we know that combs, what we call today louse combs, they are known for apparently 6,000 more years ago. And they found such combs were found also done from ivory, also in Egypt. And in the late 80s, we started looking, going to different museums and collecting all the combs which there was in the collections, and we started examining them. Although they were cleaned exteriorly, but they forgot to clean between the teeth. And what we did, and we started first of all examining 24 combs, which were approximately 1,500 to 2,000 years old. And as you can see, in 12 of them we found lice or eggs. And interestingly, in one we found 88 eggs and 4 lice. In a second, from Qumran, and 12 lice and 27 eggs. We are talking about 2,000 years ago. I mean, they were excavated. They were lately excavated, but it was 2,000 years old. I show you the picture of 2 lice, which are approximately 2,000 years old. There are nymphs, and perhaps it's difficult to see, but you can see even here the remains or the beginning of the hatching of the new stage. I mean, the new cuticula which built behind before they mold to the next stage. And here you see the 2 eggs, archaeological eggs if you want, and if you have a little bit imagination you can see also some parts of the embryo which we found in that kind of examinations. As I told, the louse combs, which also in size are approximately the same as today's louse combs, you can find in different museums, and most of them are done from wood, usually boxwood, and which comes from Turkey, and it is a relatively hard wood, and you can prepare nice combs, as you can see it. And most of them, they were 2-sided. One side with less dense teeth, as you can see it here, in order to open the nodes of the hair. And then you turn the louse and you start the comb, and you start combing with the less dense in order to take the lice out and the eggs. And what we are doing, as a matter of fact, we're examining this part of although they are usually trying to clean it, but as you can see, there's quite a lot of material here between the teeth, and we start taking out, physically removing all this, let's say, dirt which are between the teeth. We examined also this part, but usually we don't find anything. All the lice are, of course, the part where it's for delousing. There are also combs are done from ivory or done for bones. Some that are very aesthetic with all kinds of, it depends to whom it belongs. And sometimes, of course, difficult to find anything, because although we know it is a comb, but there's nothing left from the teeth. Just one of the last publications which we did also allows comp which we found from the Roman period in a cave called the Cave of the Pool, which is close to Engedi. That's also an oasis next to the Dead Sea. And we found here, as you can see it here, the head of a louse, the antenna, one at least, the mouth part, even you can see here the stillets, with the help of which the louse is able to bite and take blood, the two eggs, the first part or the anterior part of the thorax, and we found also a leg. As you can see, here the tarsus, usually here it's the claw. We found also lately in another cave which is called the so-called Christmas cave, also from the Dead Sea area, and there we found also this, you see the comb, you see also the egg. As we start working more and more with ancient lice, so there were Rivera from Chile who contacted us and brought, as you see, 6 samples of hair from Camarones in North Chile, and when we examined, that is the number of operculated, non-operculated eggs, which you see that there are, of course, in heavily infested people, you can find a lot of them. So, before I continue with this finding, I would like to remind you that Pedicum humanus was known until now. Today I learned that there is a 4th clade, but there are 3 clades of human lice. The A, which is currently worldwide in distribution, B, which is restricted in America and Australia, and the C to Africa and Asia. And that I'm telling you because lately, together with Professor Raul and his student Mutelis, we examined some, the first of all, the lice, which are the eggs, which are from the Camarones, as I told you, and they use these partial mitochondrial genes, and they found that it belongs to clade B. Then we also, in collaboration again with Professor Raul and his student Raleigh, we examined some operculated eggs from Chalcolithic period, approximately 4,000 years before, and some others from the Ottoman period in Nahal Omer, and as you can see, they also belong to C this time. Of course, the C, it is known from Africa and Asia, but definitively there were also a lot of migration between these two places, and of course the slave trade, and that would explain more or less that we can most probably find this clade in other areas as well. If we go to human louse, the human body louse, the first one which I found in the literature was those who was found in Hallstätter in Austria. I couldn't find the louse itself, but because I put the place of in Austria. But this louse, it is from the Viking Greenland. You see here the period, and from deposits of farmers, and in their clothes they found this approximately 1,000 years old body louse. We did, we work with all the remains in Masada, which is one of the most touristic areas in Israel, and Masada was built by King Herod in the shore of the Dead Sea, and it was later destructed by the Romans, And in one of the rooms which they remained, the so-called casemate of the scroll, they found some remains of Jewish revolts, which they fought for a period against the Romans. Afterwards, they lost the war. But then, between these remains, the scrolls, they were also, we were able to find just a leg of a louse, as you can see it. But it is so specific, so characteristic that you can't miss it. I mean, it can't be anything else than a body louse leg. Just to remind you again that the body louse, and only the body louse, is apparently able to transmit at least these three diseases, pathogens. The most important is, of course, the pathogen, the Rickettsia provazeki, which is causing the epidemic typhus, and on this subject I am going to talk quite a bit. But there are some other, which the group here are working quite hard also with the trench fever. And if I come now from the archaeology to history, I would like to show you that one of the oldest from medical history, historic reports of epidemic typhus come back to Peloponnesian war. The first pestilence that might be attributed to louse-borne typhus was the Athenian plague, and we hear up from Thucydides about 430 years ago, BC, who explained all the symptoms, etc., and come to the conclusion that as a result of this plague, the Athens fall down and change the history of Greece. But also reports is from the time of Ferdinand and Isabella from Spain, who tried in their attempt to oust the Moors from Spain. In 1489, a Spanish army had blockaded the Moors inside the stronghold of Granada when an epidemic of louse-borne typhus hit the Spanish army and killed approximately 17,000 soldiers out of 25,000 within a month, and as a result of that, Granada remained in the hands of Moors. In 1527, Francis I of France was marching into Italy to free the papal estate. Charles V, in charge of the Spanish army in Italy, marched his army out of Rome to make a stand against the French in Naples. At these periods, an epidemic typhus killed within a short time 25,000 out of 35,000 soldiers of the French army. And in this war, to subject the Protestants, Charles V tried to break off the siege of Metz in Germany, when 10,000 of his men died from typhus in the first month of siege. Because of this, he was unable to subdue Protestantism in Germany. In 1560, Ottomans invaded Hungary, the center bastion of the Christianity, and the Austrian army in Hungary fought back, but was forced to retreat when typhus killed 30,000 soldiers, and so Hungary remained in the hands of Turks. During the 30-year wars, which 1618-1648, next to plague and starvation, typhus was responsible for the death of more or less 10 million people during this period. While during the war, because of the war, 350,000 people died, and another, as I said, 10 million because of the typhus. As you all know, it's funny that I tell about that here in front of you, because it was done in this institute, but as you know, Napoleon entered Russia with his Grand Army for the first time with about 600,000 soldiers, and start going towards Moscow, etc. And then the epidemic typhus started, and 80,000 French soldiers died in the first month of the invasion. Only 90,000 soldiers out of these 600,000 arrived to Moscow, and only 20,000 come back to Paris, to France. And only 3,000 of them remained in life in 1813, which shows. But then Napoleon entered a second time, this time with 500,000 soldiers to Russia, and this time he lost again over 200,000 soldiers in this war, and he was obliged to retreat again. And as you know, the group of Raoul in 2006 examined the skeletal remains of French soldiers of the Napoleon army, which were buried in a tomb in Ukraine, and they found, as you can see on the right side, remains of the soldiers, their clothes, and they examined the clothes, and they found all kinds of body lice, and they examined also the teeth of the soldiers, and they found also the DNA of Quintana, and also from Rickettsia provazek. Just bringing that what we knew it from the history of medicine, what happened to the soldiers. During World War I, typhus was responsible for the death of approximately 3 million people. During World War II, there were a lot of casualties among the German soldiers. We don't know exactly how many deaths were in concentration camps. We know that there were a lot of them, they died also because of the typhus, and one of them, it was Anna Frank, which died from epidemic typhus in the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. And just the last example from which is the last typhus epidemic occurred in the last years in Burundi, and it was several hundred thousand people which died as a result of it. If I come to the third louse, that is the Pterus pubis, the pubic louse, here also I show you one of the first drawings done by Francesco Redi in 1668. Okay, it's not so accurate with the second and third leg, which are much stronger than the first one, and they are stronger in order to catch the pubic lice, pubic hairs, which are much thicker than the head lice. Can do it with our hairs, and here you see someone who tries to remove the pubic lice from the pubic area. Ancient specimens of pubic lice were found from 2,000 years out from South African mummies, as you can see it here. and also from the Roman period, from the 1st or 2nd century AD in Britain, and much later from post-medieval deposits in the 18th century in London. I hope that everyone here knows this book. It is just a fantastic book written by Professor Dobby from L'Hermitage in France. He wrote several books. One of them is he wrote about fleas, and he wrote about lice and pubic lice, and he found everything which is written about from parasitological point, but most historical, from art, literature, in language, etc. It's just a fantastic book with so many details. And here you find a gravure from the 15th century. Apparently it's a method which it was abandoned. We don't know any method which you use any kind of brush to take out the lice, but definitively it looks as the lady tries to remove the lice, and here you see the king Stanislav, who come back from the war, and there's a princess would start taking out the head lice from his head. And lice, it was always a symbol of filth, of poorness, etc. And everybody who hated someone else, so he put his picture with so I could imagine that the Catholics put the Protestants with lice, etc., just to show. Afterwards, as you know, it was also the German cockroach, etc., just to show that filthy things are with the neighbors. This engraving, it's from the 17th century, representing a comb used for future officers in the army and politicians as the symbol of energetic guardians of the moral and public order. And in the earlier centuries, 17th, 18th century, people was using monkeys to groom themselves and others with the help of these monkeys. They also here in Lisbon, in Portugal, and the people had to pay per head for having used these monkeys to delouse them. Several engravings on the subject of delousing were produced between the 17th and 18th century, and here you see one of Sanctum, in which there is a carpenter working, and next to it, most probably his wife, examining the head of his. But during the 17th century, a lot of known painters, they did several paintings with the subject of delousing, and here you see from Rio in 17th century, two of them against von Swerts, here and here. Then from Borch in 17th century. Perhaps you don't see it, but there is a comb in their hands. Also the Pope in 17th century. Siberechs. And the last one, Moliner in 17th century. Here you see it very clearly, the comb, which is not just for the hair. Just I show it that because it was so beautiful, I found in the internet. I wanted just to show you. Yeah, for 17th century polychromatic horn louse comb. It is really very good. There are 3 parts, as you can see, and it's really beautiful. And that is a painting of a Dutch artist on 17th century again. The whole family, and the funny thing is that the dog is also somehow trying to, most probably not get rid of his lice, but from his fleas. And in the last century there were also different postcards. These 2 are from France, which they use this also delousing and examining for lice. And if we come to...
Did you notice what they call the postal card? They say painting the Bosch, which is the Bosch was the bad name for Germans. So they call the lice Bosch, you know.
And here our last subject of one of the first engravings from 17th century from a Dutch artist showing a boy probably scratching his pubic lice because of louse infestations, while the monkeys, as you see, is examining him for the... And here the British soldiers, also a kind of postcard, and dealing with their pubic lice. So in conclusion, if we arrived from approximately 10 million years ago from the common ancestor of the human lice, but and that is my philosophy, that all the 3 human lice exist today and have a worldwide distribution. There is no reason in the world to believe that they will not accompany humans also during the centuries to come. That are the collaborations which I had from the Israeli Department of Antiquities of Institute of Archaeology and the Science Center from Engedi, Department of Anthropology that is from Chile, and of course the group of Professor Didier Raoul and with his students, which I'm working lately. Thank you very much.
We are trying to reinterpret have another interpretation of the pandemic of the past, based on 2 things. First, we believe we get very strong data that shows that plague has been transmitted by lice. So we find the bacteria, Yersinia pestis, in lice in Congo. We get a study on this. Second, we get an experimental model that works very nicely. And with Michel, we investigate 2 outbreaks where we found at the same time Bartonella quintana and Yersinia pestis. So we think that probably the pandemic, not the sporadic cases that are, you know, like some rat fleas,
yes,
but the pandemics are probably being vehiculated also by lice. And specifically because among these that we find in Congo, we find some in head lice, which means that everybody gets lice at this time, you know. So I think that this is interesting, and I think that maybe some of the plagues that we have identified as typhus were probably plagues of typhus, specifically because now we believe that the only zoonotic reservoir of Rickettsia proboscis is in America. So we believe that these are being imported by Spanish and probably start with Spanish. So probably the things that have been described before Columbus in Europe are probably another thing. So I think that really specifically working on the demographic studies on plague shows that it was much more too rapid to be, you know, linked by fleas. So it has to be something that's even interhuman and probably lice are the very best thing. So I think that the part of the life story in the past, or the part of the risk of the emergence of a new plague would be with head lice. So if we get something with head lice, it could be really dangerous.
Except we know that plague is also afterwards transmitted by pneumonically and things which makes, of course, the...
Yeah, but the current studies in Congo show that the level of transmissibility by cough is very, very low. So
yeah.
it may not explain what I'm saying. So it's and the other thing that is not published yet, but that we have found in Africa now, is that we found now that there is a transmission of Bartonella quintana by head lice. Okay, so we get, Oleg, I don't know if Oleg is here, but Oleg gets the data. We grow the bugs from the blood of the patient to get that in the head lice. So we knew that we can find that in the head lice, but now we know that it could be transmitted by the head lice in this population where there is no body lice, or there is just head lice. So we know now that head lice may transmit Bartonella, which is the first bug that we know is transmitted by head lice. But we find also Yersinia pestis in the head lice, but we don't know if they transmit, but we suspect yes. Questions? Philippe?
Non, je vais laisse l'arrêt pour écouter les questions.
Commencer quand même maintenant. Good bills on French.
Jean-Michel?
By chance, I'm talking also French.
Ok, donc ceux qui veulent rencontrer Kosta peuvent le rencontrer avant le meeting de génétique.
Thank you.
Ok, thank you, Kosta.